All right, welcome everyone. I just wanted to make sure that this is recorded so we can send this out afterwards and let anyone who is unable to join us to be able to tune in if they choose to do so. What we're going to do is basically I'm just going to go over all these motions that we're putting out there and allow you guys to ask any questions whatsoever. You could do so in the chat. Donnie will be monitoring those, or I will be happy to, you could just unmute yourself and ask any questions that you have. These in our opinion on the board is these changes are needed. Sometimes when you go back through and you look at the constitution and bylaws of any organization, they become antiquated and it's just needed. And I think that's what these are. I think we have good bylaws. I think we have a strong constitution, but there's a few things that we really wanted to clean up. We started this process a couple of years ago and we introduced it during, I think it was last year's Zoom convention, and basically pulled it because we just was not ready to put forth a vote the way we wanted to conduct one. So that's the reason that we're doing this now. I think it's good for our organization, and hopefully everyone who is tuning in agrees. And for those of you who will vote, we will send out the vote shortly after this Zoom. Donnie Smith will send it out to everyone. We would like to remind you that the vote process is just like any other voting process within NAIA SIDA. You get one vote per institution. So even if you have 5 members on your staff that are all part of NAIA SIDA, you still only get one vote per institution or organization. So a conference gets a vote and a school gets a vote. So just want to remind everyone of that. Once the voting is completed, we will let everyone know if it was successful or not. And if it was successful, then we will move forward with the actual vote of these constitution changes. All right, let's get going. Motion number 1, eliminate language specifying that elections of both officers and at-large board positions must take place at the annual business meeting. One of the reasons that we are bringing this forward, and you can read the rationale, but this one's very near and dear to my heart. It's something that I think was born several years ago when I was at an ADA meeting and during the national convention or NAI convention. And this is basically how they do their voting for their board members. And not that that makes it right, but what I want to make clear is the reason that we're bringing this forward is because it's including every SID and not just the SIDs that are able to attend NAIA SIDA. A lot of the times those people who are coming to convention or to our summer convention, to our divisional day, a lot of those are the people that are basically up for the awards, and that's great, or not the awards, but the board spots, and that's great. We're excited about that. But there are a lot of people out there that do not come to divisional day, that whether it be for budget reasons or time constraints or whatever, that can add so much to our board. And so we want to make sure that we're inclusive of every SID in NAIA SIDA and not just those people who are able to make it to convention. The other reason, and this is even more important, is let's say, for instance, we had 50 people at divisional day. Basically, if one person gets 26 votes, if the rest of these motions go through, then they're elected at a board position. And we want the entire body to be able to vote for that and not just the 50 people in the room at divisional day. So this motion is to eliminate the language that says that only officers and at-large board positions can be voted on at the annual business meeting. Our annual business meeting every year is at our summer convention at COSIDA during our divisional day. That's when we have our business meeting, and this is what this motion is put forth to eliminate that. Is there any questions whatsoever? Donnie, Ron, I see Cindy's on here. I thought, yeah, Scott's on here. Any other board members, they're welcome to speak up, or if you're not a board member and you have any questions about that, please feel free to ask now. All right, motion number 2, remove the treasurer position. It's been probably 4 years ago now, maybe 5 years ago, we added a treasurer position to the board of directors. We did that to try to manage the money portion of NAIA SIDA. Long story short, we basically were losing money that was basically used inside of a fiscal year. And if we didn't use that money, then it went away and we had to start with a fresh pile. This way, the money that we collect from NAIA SIDA dues or any other monies that come into NAIA SIDA, whether it be for sponsorships or whatever, we now house at COSIDA, and COSIDA does not have that requirement like the NAI did. And so we get to keep that money, and it rolls over every year. So we can use it when we want to, and we're not required to use it during that time. The treasurer position was brought in to basically be a person who could reach out for sponsorships. Unfortunately, I don't think that really panned out the way we had hoped when we started the position, again, 5-6 years ago. And so we're basically eliminating a position that we don't, as the board, does not feel is needed at this time. With the president and the first VP, second VP, I think we have capable people in position to handle that. With the help of COSIDA housing our money, I think it's logical to remove this position. I will field any questions on motion number 2 at this time.
This is a position that's currently vacant on our board as well. And kind of to expand on what Chris said, it was kind of seen as a little bit of a fundraising position to help generate some additional income for NAIA SIDA. But due to some changes with the national office and like Chris said, with the ability to house our funds at COSIDA, we really don't need a fundraiser position anymore. And really that's kind of been a position that hasn't been used to its potential either. And now it's really kind of unneeded. So it also kind of gives our board the ability to be a little more nimble. We don't have to gather as many people either.
All right, motion 3, change officer mandatory vote from 2/3 to a majority vote of eligible voting members. You should know that all of NAIA SIDA is, anyone who's a member of NAIA SIDA is an eligible voting member. This vote it became cumbersome more times than not over the years at our business meeting. It became really awkward at times because we would almost be at a stalemate. We'd have people who were involved with the voting process and neither one would get 2/3, and we'd have to send the 2 people back out of the room to re-vote. And then that vote, someone didn't get 2/3. And so basically what you're having to do is you're asking someone to change your vote so that we can move on. It lengthens the business meeting. It would lengthen, even if we move beyond, even if motion 1 carries, I think motion 3 is just as important to make sure that we can move on from I guess, some awkward asking of people to change their votes. And it also says in there, in the event that 51% is not achieved by one candidate, the top 2 vote getters would be in a runoff election. So if you have someone who has 40% of the vote, a second person, let's say we had 4 people involved in a position, you had 40%, 35%, 15%, and 10%. We would basically now allow the 2 people who are at 40 and 35% to run off for that position, and then we would get the majority vote that way. So it's just, I guess it's completely changing the way we do things. As far as, it's not completely changing, it's changing the amount of votes that are required to elect an officer to the position. and it is, as the rationale says, it had become cumbersome. And man, that is an understatement in my opinion. If you've ever been in that room when the voting took place. So I will field any questions that you might have about motion number 3. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to motion 4. Change the required vote for at-large board members from majority vote to top vote getter, as determined by the number of positions. So every year we have 2 at-large positions that are up. We have 4 total at-larges for those of you who are unaware of how many people are on the board. We have 4 at-large members. We have 2 that rotates on and off every year. So basically, as the rationale explains, we're going to have sometimes as many as 10 people running for those 2 board spots. And again, when you're at the business meeting, you're sending 10 people out of the room to vote, and you only have 50 people at the meeting itself. All of a sudden you're down to 40 people trying to get 2/3 vote. This will allow us to have the vote, especially if motion number 1 changes, to get the vote getters down to the top 2. What we have done in the past is we would get our first one and then we send the 9 back out of the room and we'd start all over again. Now we're basically not having to do that. We're just taking the top 2 vote getters from that position. Those will be our at-large positions. If for some reason we had someone vacate a spot in the at-large, we would have the top 3 vote getters. So it just depends on how many positions that we have open for that particular year. And that's how many ever positions we would have, that's how many people we would take in that vote. I will field any questions on motion number 4.
I think you can start to see how a lot of these work together, as Chris alluded to. One change can lead to the other. This is all kind of coming from a lot of years of frustrations of being late to the awards luncheon and having to sit up front or missing lunch altogether. This just allows a greater group of people to be involved in this process. And these positions being voted on by a greater number of people in a lot more efficient manner.
Okay, motion 5, any new sections add new sections in both officers and at-large positions to state that all elected officials must exhaust all options to be present at the annual business meeting. I think this goes without saying. We want everyone at the annual business meeting, which occurs at COSIDA. We also want to make sure that we don't exclude anyone. If there is a board member who is unable to come to the business meeting, it doesn't mean he or she isn't part of our board. It just means that they couldn't come to convention for whatever reason. But we want those board members to do everything they possibly can. My hope personally is if we have someone who has never been to COSIDA, never been to Divisional Day, and they get selected to be an at-large member of our board, that they can use that as leverage to talk to their AD about possibly coming. Hey, I'm a board member now. I need to do everything I possibly can to be there to represent the people who selected me to be on that spot. I can't tell you, I've been to a number of ADA meetings at the convention, and it's rare to see someone who is not on ADA board not there. It's just rare. And I'm hoping that we see the same thing for NAIA SIDA going forward. So this is something that is just important to put in our bylaws or in our Constitution to say, hey, do everything you can to be there. It's not going to penalize you if you're not there, but exhaust every effort. And we want to make sure that we stated that in our Constitution. Any questions? Motion 6, remove language to determine that the 2 at-large board spots be elected at each NAIA SIDA workshop. This is just redundancy more than anything else. We have a plan, a schedule, if you will, on the fact that we elect two new at-large positions every year. The Constitution, again, I told you earlier that there are some antiquated statements in our Constitution and bylaws. This is one of them. It just doesn't. We already know that we're doing this every year, and two people roll on, two new people roll, at least two new people roll off, and two new people roll on. So we're just removing the language because it's not needed in that in Article 7, Section 2. Any questions about this? Okay, so those are the 6 motions. The rest of it is just administrative changes where we change sports information to communications, where we mentioned the mention of DAC stats to Presto stats. The responsibility of serving on the CSA, which is the Council of Student Athletes, falls to the first vice president instead of the second vice president, and it's written in there in the Constitution wrong. So there's just some I guess cleanup more than anything else. I do want to point out the third point. It's not really bulleted, but the third point where it says additional language in Article 6, Section 1 that allows the president of the NAIA SIDA to select board members that will serve on 2 additional NAC spots that were just approved by the NAC in January. This is a huge thing for us. This is huge for our organization. The NAC, for those of you who may be new to NAI or new to our organization, the NAC is basically they run, the presidents run the NAI. Let's not kid ourselves. They are in charge. They are the head of this organization. But the NAC basically dictates everything else. They're the rules. They oversee everything. And to have one sports information director or athletic communicator on this 45-person entity of the NAC is disappointing because we have so many incredibly intelligent, hardworking sports information people who work within our organization that can add so much. I would get calls just serving in this capacity. I know Cindy's on here, and I'm sure she was this way when she was president of NAI SIDA, from different subcommittees asking me what would the sports information people think about this, or what do you think? Well, let's just put a sports information person on each committee. Now, I think there are 5 subcommittees with NAC, and to ask for 4 spots was probably being a little greedy. I think the fact that we get 2 additional spots and we have 3 SIDs on NAC is just a massive step forward for our group, and I'm really, really excited about that. It's something that when I took over as president was probably my top priority. I wanted to give us as a group a bigger voice within NAI, and I think this is a great first step towards getting that louder voice within our organization. So the NAI SIDA president, originally when we proposed this to NAC, we asked for the past president and the second vice president to be the second and third members of NAC from NAI SIDA. The reason we backtracked on that is because in this circumstance this year, we had our past president, Cindy Potter, who got elected as a member of NAC from her conference as their conference liaison. So that immediately, she's already on NAC. We didn't want to give up one of our 2 spots because she was just there. So we basically wanting to change our bylaws or change our Constitution that says that the NAI SIDA president, who is automatically on NAC, gets to pick those two people who will join him or her on NAC. So that's the reason for this administrative change as well. So just, I guess the message is going forward, we're going to have, starting this summer, we're going to have 3 members of NAIA SIDA on NAC, which is really, really a terrific change. So that's it. I've talked more than I meant to. I will open this up to any comments or suggestions or questions, or Donnie, Ron, Scott, Cindy, if you have anything to add, please don't hesitate to do so. And any of you who are not on board, if there's any questions we can answer, now's the time to ask.
I would just say that I think all these changes are simply being made to make things more efficient. There's really nothing else behind it, just trying to make things more efficient and more inclusive, so that more people can be involved. And I echo Chris's comments about having more representation on the NAC. That is a fantastic outcome. And Chris, congratulations on getting that through and making that happen.
Thanks, Ron. Yes, we have a question.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. And I'm new to NAIA 24 years. So my only question is, the nominations for the positions for the board, is that still done at the business meeting at COSIDA?
No. So what will happen?
Okay.
That's a great question. It's something I was going to have Donnie cover, but I'll go ahead and mention. Actually, Donnie, if you want to take that question, go right ahead.
Sure. We'll start soliciting nominations probably in the next week. So that way we can put together a ballot and a PowerPoint of all of our candidates for each of the open positions, especially if these motions go the way that our board hopes they will. We'll need to start building this a little bit earlier than we used to. When everything was done at the business meeting, we could basically do this about 2 weeks before convention, find out who wants to do what, put them together on a PowerPoint. When we get to our location, vote on it. Now we'll probably start soliciting those within the next week or so to find out who'd be interested in any of the open spots.
Yeah, so that email will either come from Donnie himself or from Cindy Potter, who will solicit those nominations. Yep. Great question, though. Thank you for bringing it up. Anyone else?
Just kind of a reminder on the process of this. You're going to get a ballot on, since the language right now says that all bylaw changes must be made at the business meeting. We're going to have a vote to allow this vote to take place. So that'll be step one. You'll be getting that soon. If that passes, then we will move into voting on these bylaws, and each one will be its separate motion. So it's not an all or nothing. If you agree with one but not the other, you can vote yes on that individual one, no on any that you don't agree with, and then each one stands on its own.
Can you hear me now?
There it is.
Now.
Hey, I wanted to just, especially for a lot of the new folks that are here, how important I think this vote is. I've been in SID and the NAI for almost 25 years now, and I had the pleasure to be on the board for a few years, probably about 5-6 years ago. But without the ability to have this vote, I could have been a board member a long, long time ago. I've always wanted to serve the association. So make sure to take the opportunity to fill out the link and get this legislation through, because I know there's a lot of folks that are like me that weren't able to go to convention for the first 15-20 years of doing the job, and know that, you know, there's a lot of folks out there who are wanting and willing to serve our association. So just wanted to put that out there. And then also for all of the men and women who are going to be hosting baseball, softball opening rounds coming up, good luck, and hope that your teams play well. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sam. All right. Just so you know, the vote to vote, which is the first vote that will go out, will come out today, and it will last until noon Central Time on Monday, the 20th. So you have a full week to vote. I am going, this is being recorded. I'm going to send this link out to everyone to who has any questions or who just didn't get to be with us today because of a Friday afternoon Zoom. But I'm going to send this out. So if you're watching this for the first time, know that you have your voting is going to be open until noon Central Time on the 20th. Once we get the results for that Monday afternoon, we will alert everyone to what that decision was. If it is a yes, then we will almost immediately send out the vote of each individual motion. Although it will be in one ballot, it will be where you can vote for each individual motion. If you like 1, 2, 3, but hate 4, 5, 6, or however it is, you can vote for those separately, just like Donnie says. And then we'll give you another week for that. Once we get those, then we'll share the results of those as well. So first things first, this first vote is going to come out soon into your email. Please take the time to vote. Make sure you fill out your name. Again, only 1 vote per institution is allowed. If we see multiple come through, we're going to have to probably contact the institution and say if they're different votes on. Well, actually, we'll just use the head SID's vote in that capacity if that's the case. Donnie, do you have anything else? Ron, do you have anything? Are we good to go?
I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us on this Friday afternoon. And that will conclude this quote unquote town hall. And we will let you know when hopefully next Monday afternoon on what the results were. Thanks, everyone. And best of luck to those of you who are competing at in all the national tournaments, track and field coming up soon, tennis, softball, and baseball. Thanks, everyone.